What's up? My name's TwoDandy, and if you clicked on this, you're probably starting to feel the same way about Valorant. Now, it didn't happen overnight. Valorant has been going backwards for some time, and I think it's because of something most people aren't really talking about. Now for you, think back to a time where you were having the most fun on Valorant. Maybe it was a time where all your friends were playing, or there was a broken agent, or there was some kind of fun trick you could do that didn't seem like everybody else knew, but was kind of game-breaking. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but for the average player, those kind of quirks are maybe a good thing. Now, Riot has kind of taken this in a certain way. A lot of people really do believe that they balance the game in a way that supports pro play and elite play, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that Riot balances the game in such a way that they're forcing you to play in their vision of how the game should play, within the parameters of what they believe their game is supposed to be. And I'll explain that. Now, there are two really good recent examples of this that we'll start with. The Neon update or updates and the ping update. Now, I believe that the ping update is the most straightforward example and probably the nail in the coffin for a lot of people. Observers used to be able to influence the round after they died by pinging on the map to show the alive players where the enemy players were playing, or possibly where util is, or where the bomb was planted. Now, these are all things that the alive player should be able to determine on their own with the tools that are available to them, but it is one of those things that allows the team to remain engaged in the round after they've died. Now, is this a good or bad thing? I personally really enjoyed it, but I could see how it could be perceived as toxic to the game. But the counterpoint there is that it has always been a part of the game. So, by removing this functionality, Riot is then forcing you to play the game in the way that they want you to play, which is not necessarily team and communication oriented, but I feel more utility and agent usage oriented. And we'll get to that with the Neon update.
Not the neon, not the...
So when Riot actually balances something or changes an agent, the idea is not necessarily to improve the game on a macro level in the agent interactions across the board, but more to influence pick rates and ability usage in certain scenarios. So when they make a change on a map or a change to an agent, the idea is not necessarily improving the map or the agent, it's about improving the pick rate for the agent or improving the ability usage on that agent. I think Neon and partially Cypher are two of the best examples of this in recent updates. Now, this isn't always a bad thing. If you balance an agent within the context of the entire agent pool and within the entire map pool for that matter, these changes can be positive, but it feels like whenever Riot makes a change, they are only making the change within the context of that agent. How can we improve the pick rate of this agent? And it leads to these negative consequences across the rest of the agent and map pool. So then what ends up happening is that when you actually do receive a map that has maybe been balanced for a different pool of agents, and then an updated agent is now on that map, think like Neon on Icebox, the experience is just shattered. That is a horrible map to play now, and a horrible map to play against the, I guess now it's a pre-patch Neon, so very recently, because they balanced Neon without the context of the entire map and agent pool. When you stack these updates on top of each other, map update, on agent update, on balance patch, on unwanted UI change, people start to really grow tired of how these changes consistently negatively impact their experience on certain maps. Then they grow a strong disdain for certain maps and certain agents and certain ways of play that lead to people just dropping the game entirely or forming negative opinions on maps that even after they receive updates, the negative opinion is already there. So when they're balancing, they need to put more respect on the context of all of the agents and all of the maps and how those changes will actually influence gameplay across everything that's already been released, instead of making these sweeping changes that are intended to increase the pick rate and ability usage of one agent. Now, I'm not a game designer, but I do understand product and product relationships. So part of the issue that has to be solved here is understanding what context does every type of ability fit in, and what type of agent and what class of abilities should be useful in certain situations, and then balancing on a larger scale across essentially like niches. Of course, like, you know, the Phoenix Wall, the Harbor Wall, the Viper Wall, they're all accomplishing the same things with slightly different quirks about them. But if they were all to be balanced differently, certain maps would feel clunky with certain walls, but in reality, when you're using essentially the same ability, they should feel the same in essentially the same contexts. So when Riot goes and changes something on a single agent outside of the context of the rest of the agents that might have similar abilities, for example, it would be something like an updraft one tap for Jett when comparing a sliding one tap for Neon, it then makes Jett feel less valuable and Neon feel more valuable, despite both agents filling that movement duelist niche. And then it doesn't feel rewarding to play anything but the character that has recently been buffed, thus feeding into what Riot has done in only addressing certain agents and certain pick rates. Now, the final caveat here is I don't know what their process is, and I don't know what their motivations are. Of course, they're not trying to make a bad game. That is not what they're trying to do. I think that the missteps are happening in how they might be approaching releasing certain changes and how they might view like positive versus negative adjustments. So they could just be overshooting changes to then try to find what is like the top end point of feasibility and what is the bottom end point of feasibility, and then hopefully getting the agent to fit somewhere in the middle. Now that is the most positive Goldilocks zone type of scenario, but I feel like when they are going through these experiments, it causes a lot of strain on the community. Maybe this is an established practice at the company. Maybe they've been using it for years with League. I don't know. I've never actually played League any extensive amount, but I find that it's not working with Valorant because people expect a certain amount of accuracy out of their agents, out of their gameplay, a certain amount of tightness and cohesion that can be disrupted really easily when these larger aggressive agent changes are made. So I have no influence on this, but maybe the next time Valorant comes around with an update, they maybe reel it in and maybe make smaller changes and over time try to find what could or couldn't be positive for the macro scale of gameplay. I really don't like sweeping agent changes because it painfully infects every match that I play. When I go from never having seen a Neon to playing against a Neon and having a Neon in every single game, it is an unenjoyable experience for 10, 15, 20 matches until I start to figure out what those Neons are doing. It is not refreshing. It is not enjoyable. It is not like an improved experience. It's just messy, and it doesn't feel like they are going about the iterative process in a healthy way. And of course, this is just my opinion. And if you've got some other opinion, or if you think that I'm just completely wrong, let me know in the comments down below so I can come down there and debate you. But that's about it. Hopefully, maybe someone at Riot sees this video and they can make some improvements to the agent release process or the agent update process, by proxy, the map update process. And hopefully we could see a game that reaches a healthy state and is really enjoyable. So thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. This has been TwoDandy. Thanks for being here. Peace.